Welcome back to the Socialist Star YouTube channel. Appreciate you tuning in. Once again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, maybe even a comment. Remember your manners when you leave that comment, or I will... And share with friends, family, your worst enemies. Sharing is caring. As some of you may remember, earlier in the year, which we're not even through the first full year of Trump's presidency. Dear God.
It's been 84 years.
Earlier in the year, Trump began his Gestapo-style, SS-style deportations of migrants, many of which are here on asylum cases with judge orders, and they have to report daily their locations, their activities, many of which already had confirmed like asylum requests that were already granted. A lot of these people are not gang members. A lot of them were just regular working people. They just so happen to look Hispanic, which, depending on where you're talking in this country, if they look Hispanic, they probably have more legal right to be here than the average American citizen does. By context, because Mexico used to be pretty big.
Oh my sweet Jesus.
But not all of them are Mexican, so there's of course plenty that are from Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, so forth and so on. Which those countries would be stable if America stopped sticking their dick in them. But there was one particular case that had a lot of people up in arms, rightfully so, that got out, and it was because it was literally just the only one that the Trump administration had to admit that there was an error.
That's my bad, I was sending a tweet.
And that was the case of a Maryland man who's married to a U.S. citizen. Members of his family are already here. He's not involved in any gang activity. In fact, his asylum request was initially granted because he was at risk of gang activity from MS-13. If you must know, the way MS-13 works in El Salvador, they literally go into neighborhoods in the middle of the night or whatever in these raids, sometimes in daytime, I guess, and they essentially hold the town hostage and basically tell people, either you work with us or your family dies at gunpoint. This guy came to America to escape that because he didn't want to be a part of a gang. And he's had a full life here. But I got interrupted because he was on one of those planes that Trump was told to have bring those people back, but then they ignored the judge's order. And surprisingly, that has resulted in a 9-0 ruling by the court. I repeat, a 9-0 ruling by the court.
They did it, bro. What? They got down, dude. Oh!
Any day we get a successful Supreme Court judgment that isn't based on fucking nonsense is worth a celebration. By a 9-0 ruling from the court, defending an order from a district court judge. So let's look into that real quick. Supreme Court says Trump administration must work to bring back mistakenly deported Maryland man. The Supreme Court on Thursday said the Trump administration must work to bring back a Maryland man who was mistakenly deported through prison in El Salvador, rejecting the administration's emergency appeal, which is hilarious because essentially they still, knowing that they were in error, knowing they had done wrong, still said, well, he's gone already, so it's nothing I can do. That's fucking just awful. The court acted in the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadorian citizen who had an immigration court order preventing his deportation to his native country over fears he would face persecution from local gangs. In other words, he literally told them an experience where his people were held at gunpoint and he was told to do something for MS-13 or else they would all be killed. And if you think I wouldn't do that, you're gonna have to do more than that to get me to turn to the criminal life. You live in fucking Missouri, bitch. Shut up.
I'll be deep in the cold ground before I recognize Missouri.
You're not in this situation, ever. U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas had ordered Abrego Garcia, now being held in a notorious Salvadorian prison, returned to the United States by midnight. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. The court said in an unsigned order with no noted dissents. It comes after a string of rulings on the court's emergency docket where the conservative majority has at least partially sided with Trump, amid a wave of lower court orders slowing the president's sweeping agenda. In Thursday's case, Chief Justice John Roberts had already pushed back Zenas' deadline. The justices also said that her order must now be clarified to make sure it doesn't intrude into executive branch power over foreign affairs. Since Abrego Garcia is being held abroad, the court said the Trump administration should also be prepared to share what steps it takes to try and get him back, and what more it could potentially do. First off, the moment he sets foot back in America,
What?
this is such an egregious crime to me, I think he should be automatically given citizenship. This is so egregious. The man's life has been entirely upended. He likely doesn't have a job anymore because of this situation, or his business has been impacted if he's a business owner. His family life is completely shattered and traumatized. He's got kids with this woman. Automatic citizenship. Automatic. Whatever funds Doge supposedly claimed that they fucking saved us, I think we are going to be cutting a part of that check to this man. Maybe not immediately, but probably 3 or 4 years once it goes through the system. Automatic citizenship, and he's going to get a check. The fact that they were already proven to have made the administrative error, knew he was on that plane, did not care, and still sent him to a concentration camp. It's like if the Nazis sent a German non-Nazi party member to a concentration camp because they thought he was Jewish. That's what this is like. He's your regular American, just without the citizenship. So it's literally like if the Nazis threw a German in a concentration camp over an administrative error. Like, that's just insane.
Following the breaking news tonight, the Supreme Court has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Maryland father Kilmer Armando Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. after mistakenly deporting him to a prison in El Salvador. A 9-0 ruling, the court upheld an April 4th order from U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas. Joining me now is NBC News reporter Lawrence Hurley, MSNBC political analyst and former Republican Congressman Carlos Curbelo of Florida. Hey, Lawrence, I want to key in on some interesting language right at the top in this order, which I know you've been digesting. The Chief Justice says the order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. I know a lot of folks are sort of fixating on facilitate. As a lawyer, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What's your interpretation? What are you hearing this court saying to the administration at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because they're saying the district court was right to rule that the man had to be, the government has to facilitate his return. But they said the judge was wrong to say that the government has to effectuate his return, saying that that might implicate some kind of foreign policy issues where, you know, the president normally has a lot of power and courts aren't supposed to interfere with that.
That's bullshit. You wrongfully deported a man. You were supposed to do everything to fucking return that wrongfully deported individual, especially when that wrongfully deported individual is not a gang member, has a fucking U.S. citizen as a wife, and kids. Yeah, you fucking effectuate the return, motherfucker, you orange sack of shit.
So the issue here is what's the difference between facilitating and effectuating? And at this moment, having just looked at it, I can't really tell you the answer to that. But I think that's what the court below, when the case goes back, is going to be looking into, and the Trump administration as well is going to be probed on, you know, what are they going to do and how are they going to facilitate his return so that he can get the due process that he should have had before he was deported. And so that's what's going to be playing out when it goes back to the district court now.
Yeah, you know, Carlos, there's a lot of interesting, thinking around this word facilitate and what it potentially means, particularly given from my reading of this in relation to what has come before. And it's even stated in this opinion, there's still this deference that the court has to this executive power, this executive authority that seemingly is all-knowing. The justice notes the district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs.
And essentially what that means is, don't offend the little king with his little ego. Don't make Trump so mad. Otherwise, Trump is gonna send J.D. Vance to ask this man when he returns, are you gonna say thank you? Goo goo gaga Dada told me to say thank you. Jesus Christ, we are placating a fucking child.
Well, this is not how you conduct a foreign affairs, by grabbing people off the street and shipping them to a foreign government prison camp.
Well, that's right, Michael. But I think the good news is that the court is following through from its previous order on the idea that people have due process rights.
Right.
And this individual was denied due process. Well, actually, they all were.
Yeah.
In this case, this person was improperly deported. And what the court is saying is that the government at least has to show some effort, show that it is trying to bring this individual back to the United States so that he can have the due process that the court guaranteed in the previous rule.
I hate to say this. Two things. One, interesting that a Republican is saying this. Former representative. Two, what is the likelihood that this man is back in the United States before the end of the year?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Because the judge basically said, you gotta show us that you're trying, because he does need to come back. They didn't say he has to come back. What is the likelihood that this man comes back before the fucking end of the year? The unfortunate thing is, I think the Trump administration is going to do their best to die on a hill in this situation, which is extremely scary and concerning, because that means an essentially wrongfully detained, wrongfully deported, wrongfully having his civil rights violated person is sitting in some prison camp, some concentration camp somewhere, with a bunch of fucking assholes and gangsters and whatever you want to say is over there, and it's just told to survive. Like, the emotional trauma. This man, when he gets back, I'm telling you right now, he's going to have one hell of a check.
Right.
And this individual was denied due process. Well, actually, they all were.
Yeah.
In this case, this person was improperly deported. And what the court is saying is that the government at least has to show some effort, show that it is trying to bring this individual back to the United States so that he can have the due process that the court guaranteed.
And that part is the huge, like, it's the biggest part about it. Like, even if you lack human empathy, the big part about it is the due process part. If a immigrant who's here on a visa or a green card or whatever cannot get due process under the law, then neither can you, because they can move the goalposts and change the tag. What due process means is, and this is plain and simple, a lot of legal channels and stuff and this and that give these long-winded fucking things. This is it. This is all due process is. Innocent until proven guilty.
Correctamundo.
Everything that comes along with that is due process. In other words, from the moment you're arrested or detained to the moment you get your sentencing, whether it's a violent crime, a non-violent crime, a middle-of-the-road crime, whatever, blue-collar fucking crime, that is due process. The entire fucking thing is due process. So the moment you're pulled over by a cop and they say you're not free to leave, due process begins. Whether it's a simple traffic ticket or you've got a dead body in the fucking trunk.
I don't know.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that.
And you could argue wrongfully, if I might add, that, well, certain people should be excluded from due process. What's to stop someone from making the argument that you should be excluded from due process? Nothing. You might say, oh, I'm a citizen. That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything. They're deporting motherfuckers with green cards. That's essentially a citizen, just without the fucking citizenship. They're deporting people who pay taxes. Migrants here who are legally here with papers and everything and have a social security number attributed to them so they could work and, you know, get a bank account and be a productive member of society while they're waiting on things. Quite literally pay taxes into a system they cannot get anything out of. They literally pay into social security and will never see it until they get their citizenship. And I'm pretty sure even once they get their citizenship, everything that they paid into it before is null and void. So they're starting fresh once they have their citizenship. And it takes like 10 fucking years, unless you're a celebrity, to get your citizenship. So due process is important. Okay, it doesn't matter who you are, you get it. There's a reason why people tell cops, you're supposed to be neutral. You are just a facilitator of the legal system. This is why in court, no matter what someone's accused of, lawyers tend to keep their fucking temperament. You can't badger people. You can't harass the hell out of people on the stand to get the answers you want. There's a certain level of decorum, so that way we can get as close as possible as the legal system acting out solely based on the facts and not on human emotion, because human emotion and human decisions can often be fucking wrong.
Your emotional reactions are preventing you from accurately judging how unlikely that is to be true.
That is why a lot of people fucking hate Americans today, because we are often fucking wrong. Free my man and free Luigi. But I want to know, what do you think on the odds of them freeing this man and returning him before the end of the year? Do you think highly likely? Do you think this man is going to probably die in that prison? Or do you think somewhere in the middle of the road? Let me know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And do I think that the Gestapo deportations will stop anytime soon? I hope so. I wish so. I hope that I feel like there's like a shit ton of administrative errors going on, because how Doge wrongfully wrote 8 million as 8 fucking billion. So there's a high likelihood that there's a shit ton of administrative errors. But who are we kidding? These guys want to be Nazis so bad, and no one is screaming about this or doing the appropriate steps that are supposed to be doing the appropriate steps, meaning we are all fucked. Okay, bye.